Welcome to the Jira Life, the place to find news, events, and interviews with the Atlassian community's movers and shakers. Join our hosts, Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira guy Nissen, as well as the Jira amigos in the Peanut Gallery, as we sit down and discuss the latest going on in the Atlassian ecosystem. Because we didn't choose the Jira Life, the Jira Life chose us.
Hello.
Hey.
Jacek, thank you so much for staying up.
Thank you for having me. That's a pleasure.
Are you caffeinated? Did you chug down a couple Red Bulls or something?
I was thinking about a coffee, but I decided to take a shower instead and just refresh all the stuff. And now it's just the water.
Are you sure it's not vodka?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
You never know.
We're going to say it's water.
Yeah, let's say it's water.
I had a teacher in high school. His last name was Yerstone, and
Okay.
every student always called him you're stoned, you're on drugs, right? And every single time our school had the drug dogs that came, they would always go to his classroom every single time without a miss. And then he would tell us he's like, I just think in the vodka in my water bottle. Nobody will know. No, this doesn't help your case.
It's good that
but
he could laugh about it.
Some people, I don't drink any alcohol, so I don't get it. It gets ruined for everybody else.
Sometimes it's funny, but yeah.
So as we were talking earlier, you look a little bit different. I think you're one of the few companies that your customer support is literally you sometimes, right? When there's a book, do you have a question with my apps? Book a call. Do.
It's sometimes me, yeah. Now the team grew and we have 10 people. Also a really great support team. But I really believe in a way that sometimes you need to take calls yourself, and actually everyone in the company should be able to take the calls. The marketing staff, the developers, the obviously the support team, but also the documentation writers, right? Because they can relate to the customer they do stuff for, right? And if they don't do the demos, they don't understand the product, they can't talk to the customers, they're literally out of what they do, right? They can't see the true thing they are doing. And yeah, so sometimes people are just surprised, so they see the co-founder in a footer, but actually, the more stuff I get and the more stuff I have to do, the calls are the one thing I really enjoy. These conversations, this is what I like.
Dealing with a disgruntled customer is the highlight of the day.
If something goes wrong, I'm the one to handle the call, and it's usually ending up with people smiling in the end. So I think it's good.
I mean, this is not common for most companies, but in the Atlassian ecosystem, it's been a fairly common practice. Because I remember early Resolution. I mean, they're a big company now, but when they were just getting started, I was one of their customers. I had a problem. I got on a call, and it was one of the co-founders, Christian, who was on the call with me. And I really do like that approach, because he said at the time pretty much the same thing you just said. Everyone in the company should be able to do support and know the product and know the customer.
Yeah, one of the most iconic people I remember, from the very beginning I joined the marketplace, was Roberto from Comalatech. I'm not sure if you remember Roberto, but every summit there was the wine tasting, and he was really talking to people, doing a lot of things, and you had founders everywhere, and everyone cared, and everyone was a really big family. And I wasn't a founder then, but I really miss this stuff. It was really a human to human, right? And this is what we try to do now.
I think that's so important, though. It's when you're running a company, right, or when you have a support group, having that consistency, right, having that same person be that person you interface with, even if you never talk to them on the phone, but just always working. I think you can establish that friendship and that relationship. Because I always see when you submit a ticket to any company, right, you're always in this bad position, right? Because something's not working, so your emotions are already not in the right spot. and being tossed from or having a different person every time, like you really got to start the conversation all over, provide all the context and the history all over. And it really just doesn't make, like, when you have like one or two people that are always doing it, you kind of establish that relationship. And I think it
Yeah,
just
the,
works
the
out.
relationship is it's all the things. I remember one of my the cases I like the most, and it was the case for Lufthansa. Back then we were like really like starting out, and it was the Radek and me, like, and some other people, but relatively we were a small company. And in the end, I asked Simon, we have a case study website, so I can share it. Hey, in the end, why did you decided to go with us, right? So there are so many huge companies, and I'm sure we had the budget. That was not the case, and the response I had was like the one that built me so much, and also helped build us the approach for all the other stuff. Is that I really like the fact that I could talk to you. You try to understand my case. You were always helpful, and it was just about the right relationship. It wasn't about like selling the product. It wasn't the script. It was a very customized stuff, and it was like almost like we work at the same company, right? And this is the really want to pursue. I'm not sure how it's going to work at scale, right? If you will have 50 people, 100 people, then it really gets complicated. But for now, it really can try to avoid the scripting, right? Try to understand every case in a very unique way. And I think that's what worked for the customers. Like sales is just the effect of the relationship, right? So all we try to do is build right relationship and solve the right issues. If there is no issue, I don't want to sell anything, right? I just want to talk, and I just want to see what we can do together.
Yeah, no, it's very critical that human to human, right? Because a lot of people, again, it's like B2B, B2C, right? But having that human in that loop. I know earlier in the year I was going through like some renewals, and a guy in my team, he was calling up solution partners, and we're trying to change solution partner, and he called like 6 or 7, but the first one that answered, he's like, that's the one we went with, for the sole fact that somebody picked up the phone, right? Like he
Like
was able
which should be obvious for everyone, right? Also, when you just like check any website of any vendor, any partner, like any big company you can think of, probably the first thing you will see like below the first header would be the logos of the companies, right? And I always laugh a bit about it, because does it really matter if you work with this big company, or this big company? Or what matters is like the kind of the problem you solved, and the kind of relation that you built, the kind of a challenge that you faced. No, it's just the logo. Oh, I just work for a big company. But do you have a relation with them? Did you really like help? Maybe like something that the conversation and this whole impression about the value should be based about the really value delivered, not just a nice logo, right?
It's interesting. So let's talk about the problem you solved then, because our audience here might not know who you are. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what you co-founded?
Yeah.
Sure. So Rodney at Getint, which stands for Get Integration, and we help people integrate Jira with other collaboration software tools. There is like 15 of them, so I'll just name a few: Azure DevOps, ServiceNow, another Jira, Asana, Monday, Salesforce. But also we help to bring more people into Jira. So whenever you think about the migration from Asana, from Monday, from ServiceNow, from like any other tool to Jira, we are a solution that will help you do it in a pretty easy way. Relatively easy, let's call it this way.
That Jira to Jira one has a special place in my heart. I don't know if a lot of people know this one. Did we talk about it in my interview with you? That also went out live.
I think we did, but also like the case that is growing is like the integration from the migration from Jira Service Management to Jira, right? Because the regular Jira to Jira migration, especially from server to cloud, everyone is doing this, right? It's there are solutions for that. But if you want to migrate from Service Desk to Jira software, it's not that easy, right? So this is also what we can do. But usually we do the migrations from other tools to Jira, and but the core business is integration.
But it's not always a migration, right? It's just like a sync as well.
It's mostly a sync, but out of the sync, we decided to do the migration. Actually, maybe not we decided, the customers decided, because our product is driven by the feedback. And once we were working with a customer, they wanted to migrate from Asana to Jira. we didn't have this feature, but they said, can you do it? And we said, actually, why not? And we did. And now we also have the option to migrate, which is on top of the regular integration setup. So
having spent like 40 hours migrating from Shortcut to Jira, you should get a Shortcut to Jira migration.
maybe we will. Yeah, maybe we will one day.
It sucks so much. Sucks.
Going back to the early Atlassian ecosystem, this originally was like one of the original unsolved problems. Is company had Salesforce and Jira, or ServiceNow, or some other service. Zendesk was another popular one, and they always wanted to integrate with Jira somehow. And my answer had to be the same for the longest time. Look, we either spend a bunch of time and money making something bespoke that only works for us,
the custom development,
or we just figure out some way to do it manually, because there is no automated process to do this yet. And
now there is
several. Yeah, now there is. And
now there is. They did it so automated, they broke everything.
Back in 2016, 2015, when I was first trying to solve this, there was nothing out there. And I remember spending like 4 hours on a support call with one of the marketplace partners that I'm not going to name. They were great. They absolutely did everything in their power to try and help us. And it just was not working, which is why I'm not naming them, because it's not their fault. They did everything they could do. It's just for our situation, it wasn't working out.
But
because it's a difficult problem.
Yeah, this migration to Jira, like I never appreciated it until I've had to do it. But about 2 years ago, I saw like a third-party like solution vendor provide a quote for doing it for you. And it was like some $250,000 or something like that. And now that I've done it, I was like, that was cheap. That was way too cheap.
Oh, but you can get it even cheaper. Our first customer approached us. They wanted to migrate from a company that was giving quote, like you mentioned, with this kind of size. And then we were like 10 times cheaper or something like this. Yeah, but I remember it was a really exciting project. We learned a lot. And we also learned that when it comes to the pricing, you can't be very, like, this is at least my opinion, you can't be very strict about it, right? You have to understand the other side, and it has to be like a value-based pricing. So the price that you put on the website, the price that you put on the product is your impression what this value is, right? And then once you enter the conversation, that you can realize that maybe the value is not that high, and then you can like do a discount, do the MVP, show the prove the value, and then do renewal on another rate. But it always has to be this conversation, this relation that we start the conversation with, right? So also like the price is also one of the points you can start the conversation with. And if you're very strict, many times you're just closing the doors, and you're just ending the relationship instead of like starting them.
How does Atlassian's 30-day free trials of their software impact your type of app?
No, actually, I like it very much because for our case, it's like two sides of the story. The first one, when it comes to the integration, they usually like a long-term business. So 30 days is usually the ideal moment to simply test it all, bring in the stakeholders, have some time to test it all, to do the right implementation, and so on and so on. Sometimes it even gets prolonged to like 60 days. And for us, it's also fine because we know that once they will get the tool, they will continue to use it for years. But the another part of the story is the migrations, right? So we had to limit the migration scope for the migration because we had customers, and we always trust people, maybe sometimes a bit too much. So we were giving up the free trial for the whole migration for 30 days. Everything was working fine, but then 30 days passed by. The people were doing the full migration during the free trial. We never heard from them again. So we needed to limit the scope to just a sample of the data they can migrate. Yeah, but of course, like always, you have to like always like adapt. This is the 30 days, and the free trial has to be there.
But I like that answer because I feel like for many apps, that 30-day trial is okay, right? Because it's like it's try before you buy. Definitely highly encouraged. But because I see Resolution have the same problem, right? Sorry, not Revise have the same problem where it's like, well, you do what you need to do, and then you don't have an incentive to do it. So I like how you provide like a, hey, you can use it, but you're really gonna try it, but you're not gonna be able to do the whole thing unless you really.
Yeah, so we are limiting this a bit.
Configuration Manager from AppFire is a not the one that has that same problem, where a lot of people would buy it for the 30-day trial. They would use it for what they needed to use it for, and they never actually get the full thing. And
I think
they
that
eventually had.
all comes down to the type of the application, right? If you think about, let's say, like Jojo, right? This is the tool you get, and this is the tool you will continue using. Probably Script Runner is also the same kind of tool. When we started the company, we knew we wanted to have a tool that will not just bring to be a value that will continue to be there for a very long period of time. Like this long-term value has to be there. But still, if you, like, for example, provide templates that can be used once and forget, then that's not probably the best, not the easiest thing to put a price on, right? When it comes to the continuous renewals. So it all comes down to the what in the end, what would you like to do, right? And yeah, my impression is that you have to do something that can bring repetitive business over and over again.
Mhm.
So like the migration are the case that we just do them one time, and it's sometimes challenging because you put a lot of effort, put a lot of heart to build in the relationship, and then after 3 months it's just end, right? There's nothing else. So then,
But that just means that, I don't know. I think the sync part, right, is definitely like a sticky. You need to always keep your issues in sync. But on the migration, there's got to be a way to make it sticky as well. But it's hard, right? Because maybe you just migrate one and done.
sometimes you do, but for example, like the conversations that we're having with the customers is they say, maybe I will just do the CSV import export. Is like a really nice and easy stuff to do, and then sure you can try, but in the end, what also we try to put to showcase to the people that it's not just about the tools, it's also about the people. And of course, you can do the migration like overnight, like depending on the volume and stuff. Let's call it overnight. But in the end, you have people using the tools, and if you will shut down the tool from day to day, they will hate you for it. They need to they will also hate the new tool they have to transition to and learn, like, because they have no other option. With the tools that will help you migrate the data, you can migrate and keep them in sync for some time, and give the people option to have this transition a bit smoother, right? So element of the tool is for me, it's a really important one.
So we got a couple questions here. I don't know if you got a chance to address them, but I guess this is more of a statement. But Matt, did it work with Shortcut? That's all I care about right now.
Hello, Matt, by the way. Hey.
But yeah, like you said, right? People want. So it's interesting though. Like I would think that Atlassian would have like a category of like, hey, maybe if you're a service and not so much like an app, maybe they can bypass the 30-day trial and just let you not have to install a 30-day trial. I wonder who Atlassian came up with that. That's the rule for every app.
Yeah, for now it's not possible. Maybe it will be at some point in time. But also the services part. Let's say, how do you put a price on a thing like the onboarding, right, or the premium support, right? Always in this case, you have to send additional invoice, which is a bit challenging because it's usually the challenge. You have to involve the procurement to be able to send the invoice, vendor onboarding and stuff. So sometimes it's not that easy. Yeah, but for now, that's the way it is. We really like since we also like integrate a lot of applications, and personally, I really love the Atlassian ecosystem, mostly for the fact that it taught the people that it's good to pay for the applications, right? Most of the applications are paid, and the paid means they are supported. The people put heart on it. They really fight to make the best product there is. If you buy something free, which is like the regular rule for other marketplaces, it's not that easy to make a business out of it, and it's not that easy to make a product. And what's beautiful in this ecosystem is that people understand that the value needs to have a price, and that's why like most of our business currently is still within the Atlassian ecosystem.
I was going to ask you next, but I'll let Rodney go since he clearly wanted to get something out. Maybe something from the script.
No, eventually. But no, I was just thinking, one of the things that really surprised me when I was first starting out in the ecosystem and was I could spend just a single afternoon and browse all the free apps in the marketplace. And granted, this was like 2014. The marketplace itself was relatively new at that time. There wasn't a lot of apps in there. it was still amazed me that most of these are actually paid apps. And then when started looking at them, understand, okay, when I'm paying, I'm getting the support, I'm getting the backup when things go wrong, backup in terms of people, not as a physical backup, but I have someone I can rely on when things go wrong to help get things right quickly. And that in an emergency, when you're in downtime, that itself is valuable. Or when you have that your irate customer who the app isn't working right for them and you're almost sure it's user error, but you don't know how, being able to go back to the app developer and going, hey, what's going on here, is invaluable. So it's one of the few ecosystems where people recognize the value in paying for what you get. And I really do love that about this ecosystem.
Yeah, no, the whole ecosystem built the whole Atlassian in a place that it is now. There is a really cool speech from Cameron, the previous CEO of the Atlassian, on the SaaS STR convention, when he were explaining how they built the whole $10 billion ecosystem now, and they literally started with thinking about partners, vendors, and the whole bunch of different companies taking part in this growth. And I think now we can see that this literally succeeded. Like, in the amount of businesses the whole ecosystem built, like when you think about partners, consultants, vendors, like, wow, right? It's really a lot.
And even creators now, because
Yeah,
we
even
are a
creators.
part of this ecosystem.
Yeah, which is also really good, right? That it really makes sense to create videos around this and support this and make content. Yeah, because this is what also brings people more into this world, to see that it's worth speaking about, right? It's something happening here. Like, there's cool stuff worth sharing. So yeah, I'm happy to be a part of it during this show.
Alex?
Now I was gonna ask, like, so you mentioned something that Atlassian is most of your business today, right? So I'm curious, do you go to other marketplaces and go, hey, I can bring Jira to you, or Jira users to you instead of the other? Maybe people go to Shortcut. I would not recommend going or using Shortcut in any way, shape, or form. One of the worst tools I've ever used in my life.
We had conversations with other like really big tools, like with C-levels of the market, like of the whole tools, because of the migration part that they were really wanted to aggressively challenge the Atlassian, but we never really wanted to take sides. And for us, like the business is performing the migration. The site doesn't really matter. It's just the market, the customers that came to us, they usually prefer going to Jira. It's not like 100% of the cases, but usually they prefer to go to the Jira. And the story, usually the one that we hear is during the case studies, is that when the COVID started, these companies needed to learn Agile. They needed to learn how to work remotely. And they started with tools that were just nice looking. They seemed cool, right? And then once they started using them, they learned how it works. They grew. The people like started to simply expect more about like what the whole ecosystem of tools can bring to them, not just one single tool. And then usually Jira is the answer, right? This is what we hear from the customers, especially when the pricing of other tools in the end during the renewal, it starts to be quite close to Jira. And in the Jira, you get not just the Jira, but the ecosystem of tools, the mature ecosystem of vendors, partners. Like it's I think that currently, whatever you think about having, it's almost there, right? And you have alternatives. And I remember when we also started Getint, we weren't the first to integrate, let's say, Jira with Jira. There was the Backbone, there was Exalate, other tools outside of the marketplace. We were one of many, and that also meant that we had to try harder than all of them combined. But from the customer perspective, this thing that this is there, and there is a competition, which also makes every of those products. That's the reason to also choose Jira, right? Because instead of like lack of the options or having one option or even one option that is free and not supported, is it really an option, right? In this case, when you go to Atlassian and you go to Jira, you have everything in there.
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. And it's funny that you say that, because as much as I love Jira, I think Jira has a scalability problem. but I think it has less of a scalability problem than like a Monday or an Asana. I think
those are the tools that usually we migrate from to Jira.
I like to think of like, and Trello falls in that same category. And I like to think of those tools as like two-dimensional Mario, right? It's just a platform where you can only go one way and it's very linear. Versus Jira is like an open world, Grand Theft Auto type of world where you can do anything.
Of course, as you mentioned, it's definitely
Mario
not perfect
64.
Yeah.
Mario
It's not Grand Theft Auto. There's no crimes going on here.
Right. Yeah. Uh-oh. Brittany is in the house. Great.
Yeah, I should have warned you about that. She was going to be watching.
Sorry, Brittany.
Brittany, I just want to be clear. Those were Alex's words.
Brittany should know that every chance I get to throw a swing at Trello, I'm going to take it. Every time.
Personally, I like Trello. We started the company using Trello, and then it was not what we needed, so we switched to Jira. But the initial idea and the initial plan started in Trello, and I like it very much.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about it, and for everybody else, a little shameless plug-in, right? Like, at my main channel, we have our full hour-long interview that we did, and I think one of the things I asked you was along the lines of like integrating two tools, man. That is a freaking hard problem. Like, why? Out of all the problems you could have solved, why solve this one?
Mostly because we previously we were working, Radek and I, with different companies, different tools, also within the ecosystem. And my challenge with thinking about the tool to work with, to found one, was that I knew we needed to found a company that will solve a real need and it will address a business critical challenge. So it will become a business critical solution. So instead of doing the applications to draw something or do the poker estimations and like all the things that you can easily get outside of the web, outside of the marketplace for free, and they are really nice to have tools. I knew that we wanted to do something that really would be meaningful, and instead of trying to sell stuff because people may need them, may not need them, we would engage in the conversations about the thing, about the issues that people are already having. And we simply identify the integrations as this thing that nobody really likes to do them. Almost everyone needs them, and they want to do it in a very smooth way that don't involve too much effort. So that out of this, we decided that there is a room to do something. We checked all the tools that were on the marketplace. We weren't satisfied ourselves with any of them, and we talked with partners and people. And out of that, we had an idea. Maybe it could be redefined and built in a better way. And of course, it's a pain many times. And if you will ask me, do I love integrations and am I dreaming about doing them? Most of the cases, I would say not really. But what I really like is these conversations that we're having. And in the end,
but it pays the bill.
It pays the bill, and the fact is that I'm not ever selling anything, right? Every conversation is about addressing the challenge, and we are very happy that we can do this, right? So in the end, when I see the happy customer willing to do a case study with me because they like the value that they got, it could be about the integrations. I'm happy that integrations was the fact that that simply started off, and we are in the place where we are today. We recently were announced as Atlassian Platinum vendor, which for us is a huge achievement. So I would say
for everybody, it's a huge achievement. Congrats.
Yeah. So
what does that mean for you? What does that get you?
Mostly the feeling of being proud of what you achieved, and this is mostly it. This is like a badge that you just like to see, and it just means that you did the right stuff. And before we went online, I was sharing that I was on my first holidays after 5 years when we started the company, and this hard work that we did, 5 years, no holidays, a lot of hours a day, doing plenty of things. And seeing this badge is a matter of a sign of you're doing it the right way, you're going into the right direction. And it's just a feeling, it's just a story.
Makes sense.
I mean, for me, integration has always been a challenging problem. But it's one of those that when you solve and you solve it right, and it's invisible to the end user, but it just works. That is an incredible feeling. Before I was in the Atlassian ecosystem. I was doing emergency services where I was setting up the emergency, the software used by the emergency services call centers. And I remember having set up an integration between the dispatch system and a third-party reporting system, and that was a lot of work. It was a very bespoke solution because it had to be, because every emergency services, fire in this case, fire department is unique unto themselves and how they report what metrics they care about, all this, and getting all that. It was a challenge, and it took me like 2 weeks. And when I finally got it working smoothly, that was an incredible feeling. So I do get why I handled that problem, but man, it is a tough one to tackle, and I respect people who are going for it.
You mentioned just the technical side of the story. There's another one, the human aspect of the story, right? And when we talk with our friends and customer, that usually the bigger part of the story is simply discussing this with the business people, that those tools that they were not ever designed to be integrated, not even like migrating from one to another. So you need to do some compromises here and there, right? You need to adjust. You need to think about not just trying to literally mirror one in the other, especially when it comes to the migrations. I always talk to our customer friends that I don't really understand why would you like to migrate to Jira and make the Jira look like Asana just because you want to have a migration. Like, what's the point? Maybe you don't need the migration then. So if you are migrating to another tool, try to think about how to get the best value out of it, how to reduce the thing that you have for now, and just simply discuss the whole scope. So this human part of this integration and migration is also a big part.
So, but that brings me up a good point then, right? Because you and your competitors are in a position to influence how people think about migration. Because
usually, yes.
So what can you talk about the things that you do in that area then to help guide people? Like, do you guys publish guides? Do you publish best practices?
We do, and out of every conversation that we have, we build the notes, and out of the notes, we then build the guides. So one of the conversations we try to have with them is simply first setting up the scope and understanding what exactly do you need to migrate, and then think about what do you have to migrate and why, because there's like two things. One of them, you need them because the business continuity needs to continue to do their stuff, but another part of the story is let's say the legal. They just want the history of everything there was, just because maybe somebody will sue us and we need to have the ticket that was there and we need to have the whole history. So let's recreate everything that we had in Asana. Now let's have all the fields in Jira. Let's migrate everything there was. But then we have this business. Say, if you're migrating, we had a lot of custom fields. We had a lot of data. Maybe all we need is just last 2 years and 10 custom fields instead of 50, right? And then we had this conversation. So what can we do about it? We unhappy. So when we are doing the migration for Daimler, and then we came up with the idea that we will just do the scripting engine, and we will make the possibility to migrate plenty of values from certain fields directly into the description field. So everyone will be happy. We will keep all the data, but you don't need to recreate all the fields, right? So this is one of the things that we help them achieve. And another one was that we had a customer that had this legal team. They wanted to migrate 10 years of history, but the business really needed just 2. So we did the custom development. We built what we call now Getint archiver. That means that we were able to archive, let's say, the 8 years of the data, let's say, in their own data center, with the possibility to preview everything that was there, and then migrate to Jira just the remaining 2 years. That would mean the business continuity and simplification of all the workflow. So this is this whole conversation, right? And sometimes simply deciding about the things that maybe they don't have to be migrated, right? So that's it, right? Trying to understand.
But that is such a hard conversation to have, right? Because you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. on this conversation, right?
And it's usually a time-sensitive project, which also brings a lot of tension, right? So let's say we have a 1 month to renew the license. We don't want to pay the license. We just want to migrate everything. And then we ask the question, do you really know what would you like to migrate and how? Not yet, but definitely 1 month is a really good
And I want it
time
all.
frame. I want it all, yes. And I want
it all, and I want it done in a month. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I think I would attribute migrating your historical data the same as recording meetings.
okay.
Like when COVID started, like everybody's like, can we record this meeting? Can we record this meeting? In 4 years, I have seen like 2 recordings of those meetings. And
If
they're just
even,
sitting
yeah.
there somewhere because everybody wanted a meeting recorded. Not once have I ever seen.
But now you have these
Probably-
note-taking tools, right? Which is a really good stuff because they also built a summary, which in the end is really good for the follow-ups or the CRM or this. It's so there's note applications that could be added to the conversations. I think that
I like
they
that
work
more.
great.
Yeah, I like that.
I like note-taking applications more than someone's in there treating my Confluence like their own personal YouTube.
And
But
nobody watches this in the end.
A lot of the folks that I work with don't have premium or enterprise versions of Confluence, so you're very heavily limited to your storage space on Confluence.
Oh yes, give me a summary. That's also the thing that I like a lot.
That's my favorite.
Or ChatGPT, give me a summary of what's there. Yes.
I like to tell it to me, like give this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Because the more complex. I don't know if you guys know this about me, Rodney. You probably don't, but you should know.
We'll see.
I don't read past the subject line.
No, really, Alex, I do know. I really do.
I don't read past the subject line, and if you give me something and there's like a body of text, I skip it. Like that intimidates me so much. I just skip bodies of text. So I like.
Yeah, that's why. Bullets, or you have to add the paragraphs and the spaces in between, right? So I think that's also the art of writing the good email, right? Instead of like writing the whole block of text nobody would ever read, build a story, right? Try to make it a dialogue, right?
There's a guy from San Jose or the Silicon Valley. He's a part of the PMP chapter for Silicon Valley, and he sent me an email and then nothing, and then he sent me another one, then nothing. And then like the third email, everything was in the subject line. I responded like that. I was like, I can see you want something from me. And then I got another email from somebody else. About like 2 or 3 months ago, I got an email from a floral site or something like that. They were asking me for something. And like 3 weeks passed by and they're like, you haven't responded. I'm like, there was an action? And I go look at the email all the way at the bottom. They was like, Alex.
Then you could use the ChatGPT to summarize it for you.
Dude, I wrote them back. I'm like, you can't put an action item at the end of an email. I'm only going to read the first like 2 sentences.
There was this anecdote I had. I think it was about the general. Maybe someone in the audience remember it exactly, but it was about the officer that the surgeon came in and offered him the report, and the general just took a look and then said, "Now you need to improve it." So the surgeon went like improved the report, went back. Now that's the improved version. You just take a glance, read it 1 or 2 pages. You need to improve it. And then after the third time, the sergeant went back and he was very frustrated. The general said, "So there's nothing to improve? No, it's fine. It's totally it. It's final. Okay, so now I have to read it." And so it's always pushing that, so improve. And once it was the final version, they just
I wonder, see, this is the AI application that I want. Legal documents to be summarized. Like, tell me where I'm vulnerable in a legal document.
Oh, yes.
Right? Or like real estate documentation. I'm like, summarize all this crap and tell me where I could possibly get in trouble.
I tried to use ChatGPT for it. Maybe it wasn't the best idea, but still, yeah.
I don't think ChatGPT could have seen the recent issues with the Disney lawyers.
I had
yes, like I'm not sure if you heard about this, but it's a big story over here in the U.S. where Disney's trying to get out of a lawsuit.
It was in EULA, right?
Yeah, because the EULA for Disney Plus. Someone accepted it for trial. And they're like, that counts for anything Disney, really.
I read this story.
Let's talk about EULA though for a second. Like when it comes to your company, like where did you draw inspiration? I'm assuming you have some sort of like, if we lose your data, don't sue us clause. Or what do you do? Like, what do you do? Like, I would say two things. Like, what's your guys' policy on data retention? Because I'm assuming some companies might ask, are you touching our data? What are you doing with our data? Right. And then the
So
other
we're
one,
not really touching the data. We are just like let's say translating the data and send them back. But we have storing the data in the logs, and then the customer can request encryption of the logs, so nobody can see them. Even our support team, if they can't just enter the instance and check the data, the customer has to prove the access for it, and also they can always encrypt the data, so we just see the errors. But also we have the option for the on-premise version that can work fully behind the firewall. So the bigger the customer, they usually prefer this option, even if they are using Jira Cloud or ServiceNow Cloud or DevOps Cloud. Then they store everything. Nobody can touch everything, not even us, right? So in this case, that's not really the thing that we need to be worried about. So for now, we never lost the data, so also I think that's a plus. But the case is, once you get the data from the ticket in Jira and you send them to the DevOps, and it creates a task in DevOps, the data are already there, so there's no need for us to store them, right? To send them again or something else. The process is completed once the task is being created, right?
all right, Ronnie, where's that
Catching up
script?
with chat.
Where's that script at?
Which
Sorry,
script?
what?
I'm asking
I
Ronnie because
see.
we're 40 minutes into a video, and that usually take it way off tangent.
Yeah, we're mostly on tangent. But if Alex wants to go with the script, Jacek, why don't you tell us how you got involved with the Atlassian ecosystem? Because that's usually a pretty interesting story for everyone.
Oh yes. So before joining the Atlassian ecosystem, I was working in the marketing agency as a consultant, as a project manager, and I was working with really big companies like Leroy Merlin, with L'Oreal, BMW, T-Mobile, so like a lot of big brands, and it was always, I thought, my dream. But it resulted in me working like 12 hours a day, traveling a lot, and like no paid overtime, no time for family, no time for anything. And I remember that one day I was frustrated about all the in my work, and I was like working out in a gym, and I got a call from a friend. Hey, how are you feeling? Maybe you would like to change something and go to the IT business. Maybe not. Maybe not this time. I like what I do. And then I got another call, and another call, and another call, and somebody named the case of a work-life balance, and simply like splitting the time to have the time to do one and another story, to have a time to and the allocating budget to make yourself better, to study, to educate and stuff, and all those things seemed like a not really a possible thing, but I really needed to give it a try. And this is how I entered the IT industry, and I joined Spartis, which is now a part of the Appfire. And yeah, it was a really great adventure to see how the ecosystem was kind of like a starting out. It was maybe not the very beginning, but I had the chance to meet the ecosystem with the people I work with, and see how this grows, to go to the summits, to go to the Atlassian user group meetings. And I really liked the whole concept of it, the spirit of it. But then like our paths simply broke out. We decided to go into the different cases. I got a really good position, and I had the opportunity to work with the C-levels and the consultants with the different IT companies. But then the COVID started, and somehow, like Radek and I, that we work both together at Spartis, we just went on a beer. And before then, when we were working at Spartis, we really like competing with each other. So we played FIFA, we do a lot of stuff, and we were always challenging each other. We always had these characters of pushing things. So instead of maybe playing, and the COVID is there, we are not going to watch Netflix because we simply like to work. So how about we start? And this is how Getint was started. So instead of watching Netflix, we started a company. We thought maybe we have a chance, and almost 5 years from now, here we are.
Ronnie, I think you and I are doing something wrong there, man. I
We
will say
decided
this
it for our free time to do even more work, but Americans.
It was a long journey because at first we worked full time at the companies that we work with. I was the CMO and the consultant for the plenty of IT companies here. Radek was working as a team leader for a huge IT corporations, and all the time left, we started this company. And also, funny anecdote is that back then we also had our first kids, right? So it was like a day job, a kid, and a startup that we really wanted to grow. So it was a really challenging time. But now when I think about how old is my company, I can think about how old is my kid. Almost the same thing.
Yeah. I remember Spartas, and as Ed Gale said, they were a great acquisition because they had some really, really innovative apps. I mean, they were doing whiteboards before Atlassian realized it might be a good thing. And I remember trialing it was only for cloud at the time, but trialing some of the first iterations of the Confluence dash or whiteboards. I'm like, this is what I've been missing since COVID, because I can't take people to a meeting room and just draw on a whiteboard anymore.
You could use Miro, right? But you didn't have this in Jira, right?
Yeah,
chat for Jira Service. This was one of the first products I was pushing also with Janusz to really give it a chance. I liked the idea of the product. I was having on plenty of Atlassian user groups, chat for Jira Service Management was a thing. I also had a lot of talks about Agile Poker back then and TFS for Jira.
Agile Poker, yes. That takes me back.
It also had a lot of stuff.
My first instance of Jira ever that I was managing had Agile for Poker.
So. Yeah, it back then was two main applications, but Agile Poker for Jira was also a thing. There were some applications. Asset Tracker was done as well, trying to challenge Insight back then, but it was the unfair fight. And I think that it never really got a chance. But I think TFS for Jira was one of the biggest products, as Edel is currently pointing out. And Agile Poker was also a big product. Maybe already is, but I'm not following this now. And the canned responses, right? Before the canned responses were introduced in Jira Service Management. But still, we also use the canned responses Pro in our Jira Service Management. I still like the product. I think it's great. So I think there's still a lot of good stuff there.
I mean, even because Atlassian has been doing this a lot for about the past 7 years now, where, there's this great app that does something in the ecosystem. On me, it's shame if I put that into Jira or Confluence or JSM or something. The first time I remember happening was just single sign-on. But whiteboards, canned responsive, there's usually... And the thing is, I usually end up still going to the marketplace for these solutions, because even when Atlassian does it,
it's a basic version of it.
Solution, it's the basic version of it. If I want something a little deeper or a little more feature rich, I'm still going to the marketplace.
But maybe that's... I try to think myself about being in the shoes of the product manager here at Atlassian, and you have the feature list, you have people asking about stuff, and you see the competition having those kind of features, and then you think about, we should have it as well. So should they think always about there's an app for it, so maybe we shouldn't do it? I think that do this in a way that we will build a basic version, and if you want something more, there is an app for it, then everyone is happy, right? I think that's the right way to go.
I think that goes on a lot, where they're like, look, we're not going to build something that works for everyone. That's just not, we don't have enough developer hours for that. So let's build something that works for 75, 80% of people. And if people need more, that's what the marketplace is there for.
Sometimes not even the marketplace, right? Sometimes you need the combined strength of the marketplace vendor and customize the things, right? Because if the case is really hard, there's hardly a product that will fit every case there is, right? So there's always sometimes there is just a base that you can like add scripts on it, like do some implementation, and other things related to it. But especially if you're like building a whole product and this feature is just a small addition to it, it's not going to be perfect, right? Because it's just one of puzzles of a very big picture. So in our case, the integration are the biggest puzzle there is. So we try to do it the best we can. But if we would be having like thousands of products and features, each of them probably won't be that perfect.
Lots of this is why running now. I know why we don't have a company already.
Because I can't get you to read a script, let alone an email.
You put it at the bottom.
You're sitting there saying I don't read, and Alex, I'm going, I know, really.
I gotta figure something out because that's a bad habit.
I mean, we never hold it against you. We joke. Obviously, we joke. But at the end of the day, me and Alex are both consultants. I'm with a partner. Alex is on his own. We've got our clients who, during the day, have to come first. So stuff happens, and we never hold it against each other when stuff like this happens.
That's good. I remember I also interviewed you too.
Joke, Alex. I'm still going to joke.
I was going to say, in the middle of all that, we somehow managed to get a book out.
I'm going to buy the first copy then.
Yeah. We need to get some signed copies out. But I think we're getting down towards the end. Anything else in that script before we go quiz with? Wait, we don't do a quiz with Quizlet.
I mean, we could do a quiz whiz, but
I don't. No, let's not do that. Sajid still has a bitter taste. There's the OG look. By the way, is the quiz whiz back? Like, is that coming back?
Oh, that is absolutely coming back.
But not the whole you're smarter than somebody, like the OG quiz whiz.
Oh, yeah, OG quiz whiz is coming back. I don't remember the exact month, but it's some point later, fall into winter. And Alex, I'll figure out some way to convince you to get back in.
No. I don't need that level of stress in my life. I'd rather solve the problems that Jacek is trying to solve.
Well, I mean, we still have a certification exam to get you through too.
Yeah, that is my top of my mind right now. That's after this Labor Day weekend, we're gonna be trying to get a 120 here.
Maybe you can do it during the summit. I heard there's a good discount for the exams during the summit. So if you make your mind that you'll come to Barcelona, maybe you can do the exam and the summit.
Oh, I don't have a passport. I can't leave. And I'm gonna forever hold that as my excuse to not be able to leave this country. I almost died in a 4-hour flight from Atlanta to LA. I don't know that I can do 12 hours across the pond.
Oh, 4 hours. Oh no. Whatever shall I do?
Stay at home. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, but we have to go the other way, right? From Europe to other places. It's usually the 12 hours we have to go. So now the Barcelona for us is just this 4 hours you mentioned.
Sean,
that's why I'm saying I've already been to Europe once this year and going again later. Announcements coming soon, guys. And yeah, it's once you've done it a few times, it's another day. It's a long day, but still just another day.
Any landing you can walk away from is a good landing.
Yeah, they don't let me fly to planes. Mostly due to lack of qualifications, but you know.
I used to be if I'm not Boeing, I'm not going, but damn, Boeing is really messing that slogan up for me right now.
No, really, I think I'd rather go Airbus at this point.
I know. It's like, seriously, that's the sad part. Like, I'm like about to burn up all my Boeing shirts.
Don't go that far yet. Anyways, yeah, so we
are
getting to the end of the show. We do something with every one of our guests. We call it a quick Quizlet.
Let's do it.
Yeah, these are 5 questions: A, B, yes, no, fill in the blank, short answer. The idea is to answer each question as quickly as possible. We're going to give you a chance after each question to explain your answer if you want to. But
Okay.
we want that first answer to be absolutely honest, so we want it as fast as possible. And to be clear, you have not read these questions in advance. You don't know what I'm about to ask you, correct?
Correct.
We're
So
supposed
the
to.
first one passed.
That wasn't
wasn't
one of them, just clarifying for the audience.
The audience thinks you're cheating with this
Nice
one.
try, though. All right, so first question. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Maybe because I literally never watched Star Trek, so I'm more the Star Wars era. Yeah, so that's it. And I also like the Lego sets of Star Wars, so and I like the Lego.
I mean, Star Trek really needs some Lego sets, so fair enough.
Does Star Trek even have any Lego sets?
I don't think so.
I never seen one.
They don't. They don't.
I got Mando, Darth, and Yoda.
Oh, I should mention that Alex will be judging you on the answer to these questions, so be careful how you answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tread carefully.
Especially with this next
That's
one,
good.
because this is one of Alex's pet peeves. iOS or Android?
Oh, iOS. Yes, iOS. I was the Android fan. I never really liked the fact much for the iOS, but then when I started my journey at Spartus, everything was on Macs, and then I had to learn those, and I made a switch. And now I remember that I bought my first iPhone. It was the iPhone 6. I liked it very much, but then it broke. I had to make a switch. So I decided to go with Android because I really thought it was a better option, better priced one. It was Black Friday. Everything made sense to go went with the Android version. And now my daughter is using it, and I decided to again make a switch to the iPhone. So yeah, iOS it is.
Good answer.
All right. So, what is your ideal vacation spot? Mountains or the beach?
Oh, that's really tough. But I have to mountains to make it fast. But why is it a challenging one for me? Because I live by the beach. I live in Gdańsk, which is to the sea, but I usually watch the sea only when my friends come by to just let's just take a walk at the beach, and that's when I go and visit the beach. I really like to go to the mountains though, so whenever I have time, I pack everything and I go to the mountains. And like 2 weeks ago, I was in Dolomites in Italy, just walking through the mountains. And yeah, so if I have to choose now, it's going to be the mountains.
All right. Alex? Your
Yes.
thoughts?
I'm still trying to figure out where Gdansk is at.
Atlassian has the office here as well, so there's a good option
Yeah.
to visit
Oh,
both
okay.
Atlassian and us.
It's in Poland.
Yeah, and I
It
met
is.
Gail last time on the Atlassian user group meeting. Magda was organizing. Magda from Divinity.
And look, Gdansk is really close to the
Hello.
beach. I need to get out more.
It is.
Where's that Concorde? Where
Actually, there are
can we
three.
have supersonic flight, man? We need
Now, Alex, weren't you just saying you were trying to avoid travel?
I don't want to
starting to
be in
get
an
out
airport
more?
for 12 hours, or an airplane for 12 hours, but that supersonic flight is very enticing.
Yeah, they don't
but
fly
like,
anymore.
but when you live in states, you have everything everywhere, right? So if you think about mountains, you can easily go to the mountains. If you think about
Well, I mean,
the beach, there
I
are
have to,
plenty of
so
places.
to get to the beach for me right now, for me to get to the beach, I have to go through a mountain.
Okay.
In 30 minutes, I'm at the beach.
Okay.
All right, so this one is another one for Alex. It's for you, but Alex has pet peeve here, so fair warning. Is renaming a status in a workflow a fireable offense?
Is what once again?
Renaming a
Is
status.
renaming a status in a workflow a fireable offense?
No, I would answer with no, but honestly,
Why not?
I'm not dealing with this too much with like setting up the Jira. So yeah, so maybe I'm not the best expert.
Okay, so
here.
now imagine you have the connector in your tool to map one status to another. Everything's
Yes.
great and dandy, and then they rename the status.
Oh, and
Because
that's that. And okay, now I get it. And it is a firewall because, like, if you consider everything related to it and all the places you have to change, even with our tool, then it's a mess. So even though we have the automatic and it tries to mimic and learn and stuff, when you change the name, I think it would crash. So, so
right,
yeah, it is
that's
a
why
firewall
like
then.
it's bad. It's a bad practice.
All
It is.
right, so last one. This is penultimate, and this one's no one's going to judge you too much for it. This one Alex doesn't care as much about, but he may still argue with you. Is water wet?
It is. Why can you argue with this? Like how?
Oh, I think I think a better one was, what were we talking? Can you get more wet than wet?
Wetter.
Yeah, like if
I'm
you're
not
already
sure if
wet,
there is a word.
if you're already
Yeah.
wet, can you get more wet?
mean-
Yes, I think you can. If you can add to it maybe the feeling of being wet, like, and sometimes you can be wet and then you can go to the water and you suddenly feel more cold, right? So you can get more wet because of the effects of being
Okay, so if
more
you're
wet
swimming in
are
a pool,
whatever. I like this one the most.
okay, so if you're swimming in a pool and somebody gets like a hose and starts wetting you, like, are you more wet? You're just wet.
Well, you still have air in your
That's a tough
lungs,
one.
so yes, you can get more wet.
How? You're wet.
You drown.
Well, don't
you get
open
more
your
water.
mouth.
Oh yeah, or you simply.
Don't open your mouth.
But
I'm
yeah,
saying,
what
like,
if you go out of the pool and then you drink something, right? Is it like somehow?
I mean, then your
you-
outside's dry and you're still. Now, if you're drinking something while swimming, maybe.
I'm just saying, once you're wet, you're wet, and once you're dry, you're dry. You're not more dry. You're not more wet.
That being said, I think Ed Gale earlier, Wetterer, is just
Whatever.
describing Atlanta in the summer.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Zach, thank you so much for joining us on this journey.
Thank you
and
for
for
having
staying
me.
up. I'm sure you're ready to go to sleep now. So we should probably end this so you can go to sleep.
Yeah, for now I don't want to go to sleep, so I will think about maybe I will watch a movie or something. It's already midnight in here, so the new day just started. I think it's going to be a
just
good
start
day.
of a new day.
Yeah, just get a head
So
start.
I just
tomorrow.
started a new day. And the first people I saw today, it's you, so it's an amazing day. Thank you guys for having me.
All right.
Absolutely. So thank you all for watching us today. We also want to thank our members. That'd be Sean Doyle, Lacey, Sharon, Ed Gale, Stu Lees, and Andy Gladstone. Online Andy, that'd be. It's
Happy
always catch us every Thursday for the live streams. Most Mondays, apologies for TGL News Break. Subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment, do all the things. And as always, we didn't choose the Jira Life. Jira Life chose us.
Thank you all for watching.
Thank you for listening to the Jira Life. Our hosts are Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz, and Rodney, the Jira Guy, Nissen. You can find Alex on YouTube at 8Tech Tutorials, and Rodney's blog is found over at thejiraguy.com. Our producers are Robert King Bob Wen and Lina Ortiz. You can catch us live as we record this podcast every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at The Jira Life. Be sure to join us and our other Jira Amigos of the Peanut Gallery every week to ask your questions, let us know your comments, and just tell us what you're up to. But if you can't join us live, you can still catch the replay over on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell while you're watching. We're also available as a podcast over on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you listen to it and think it deserves a rating, we would very much appreciate it, as it will help others discover the Jira Life. because we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us.